I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Friday, October the 18th, brought to you in part by Norfenacol by Norbrook. Norfenacol helps you get to the bottom of BRD fast. It's a bioequivalent to Nuflor, but it is more syringeable in that it's not as thick. You don't have to put it up on your defroster when it's cold outside to give a shot with it. It comes in plastic bottles, so you don't have to worry about it breaking as much, and it has a shorter withdrawal period. For more information, go to norbrook.com. Also, Unionville Livestock Markets and Creston Livestock Markets in north central Missouri and south central Iowa. Creston will have regular sales every Friday this month, all the way up through November the 1st, and then have a big special on Wednesday, November the 6th. At Unionville Livestock Market, they've got a special calf and yearling sale coming up this Tuesday, October the 22nd at 10:30 in the morning, expecting around 1,700 head of cattle. They've got many fancy strings of home-raised calves, and a lot of the heifers on there will be replacement quality heifers if you're interested in buying some fancy heifer calves to raise up and breed. They've also got several consignments of yearlings, including about 250 head of 900-pound steers from the Rockin' R out of Lucerne, Missouri, sometimes known as the Smokin' R, by the way that they sell their cattle there at Unionville. What's going on in the city? Well, the city, meaning Oklahoma City, that has always been your feeder cattle market for the nation on a Monday morning. It still is. What's going on there? Well, it's still going. Nothing's changed. They're still having sales there. But the company that actually owns the stockyards facility, and they actually own 102 acres there, including 60 acres that they have the stockyards on, and then ground around it there. They are looking to sell that property. Now, it was just a little over a year ago that the Oklahoma City site was on the short list to have a new prison built there, which seemed kind of funny right there in the city limits of Oklahoma City. But they staved off, that pressure to sell. But now apparently the company that owns that property is wanting to sell that, and they say that they would like to find an agribusiness there in Oklahoma to buy that land and continue to have the stockyards on it. But anytime you have for sale on some property where you're holding business, it's shaky ground there. It's like having a restaurant and they put a for sale sign out in front of it. It makes things a little bit shaky. Now, I haven't talked to anybody that wants to see the Oklahoma National Stockyards close. Even their competitors want to keep that open. Anybody that's in the cattle business and loves marketing cattle, loves raising cattle, selling cattle, cattle markets, anybody that's involved in that loves the Oklahoma National Stockyards, including me. I would love to see it go on forever. It is the last terminal market that's still operating. Now, the last river terminal market up on the Missouri River to close was the St. Joe Stockyards about 4 years ago. But Oklahoma City was a terminal market. Now it's just a cattle auction, but it's the oldest. And it was just June that they actually hosted the World Livestock Auctioneer Championship, and there was tons of people there. I think it was the best attended LMA conference and World Livestock Auctioneer contest that they've ever had. It was so much fun to see people coming in there from back east and all over that had never been to anything like that before, never been to the Oklahoma National Stockyards, and they were just relishing in the history around there, taking pictures, posing for things, and it's just it's a Americana icon there, and we would hate to see anything happen to that. So, but it's kind of up in the air now, so people are getting a little bit nervous. Now, there's been some changes over the last year or so that's happened around in there, and then you start seeing changes that makes you wonder a little bit. They've had an auctioneer change there or two. They have had talk about moving the sale from 2 days with cows and odds on Tuesday and then selling them after the feeders on Monday, which seems like a long day, especially in the fall, but we have not seen them move to that yet. They've had the stockyards manager change, Kelly Payne, that resigned at the first of the year. She had a love that ran deep to the core for that Oklahoma National Stockyards, and she spent most of her time, selling that stockyards in a way to the city and to the state and to the nation. Giving kids tours of it, teaching people what goes on around there, telling them about all the interstate commerce that happens right there in Oklahoma City. And we're just really hoping that everything stays status quo and we continue to have sales there and they continue to be the nation's feeder cattle market on a Monday. And but there is some stuff going on. I wouldn't have talked about it, but it was in the Oklahoma City paper on Thursday. And so when you start seeing people putting it out into the media and things, there's going to be a lot of rumors going on. As far as right now is, they're still having sales there. They've still got the best contingency of corporate feeders in there buying and supporting that market. They still have big sales. They will continue to have big sales. There are generations and generations and generations of people, producers in central Oklahoma, in North Texas, that have always marketed their cattle at the Oklahoma National Stockyards, and we hope that they will always be able to do that. They still have a lot of commission firms that are doing business there, and this was kind of sprung on them. Some of the commission firms, this was the first they heard of it when it come out in the Oklahoma City paper on Thursday. So we just hope that if they are indeed going to sell that property, they will sell it to somebody that wants to continue to hold the stockyards there and maybe embrace the stockyards and draw more attention to it in a positive way. But we had a good fat cattle market on Thursday. We finally saw some trade break loose. It was $1 to $2 higher in the Southern Plains. The Northern Plains steady to $1 higher. Didn't have a lot of dress trade, but it was steady to higher on that too. So continuing, this will be the 6th week in a row that the fat cattle market has gained ground there. We saw kind of up and down day on your board. Your feeder cattle market's kind of tailed off just a little bit, and I think a lot of that continues to be pressure from these calves, and everybody that is trying to straighten up new arrivals of calves is having trouble. It's just it's that time of the year. It's hot in the daytime, it's cold at night, and the separation anxiety that these calves have whenever they show up there bawling and they're under stress, it's hard to straighten those calves up, I tell you what. But it's starting to take a little bit of a toll on that. We saw our prices back up just a little bit in some of our big sales on Thursday, but the fancy strings of calves, especially the light calves, are still selling very, very well, and any grass yearlings that you happen to see, because they are running out, guys. Livestock Risk Services, they can help you with your risk management, guys. That's Dakota Moss and all these agents that works with him there, and he's actually based out of the Oklahoma National Stockyards Exchange building there in Oklahoma City. And you need to look out, get a hold of him, ask him about coverage prices, pick you a coverage price that you're comfortable with and you're comfortable with the premium to manage your risk. If you've got calves to sell here later on in the season, or if you're going to start backgrounding some cattle and wheat or something like that, you've got to get in there and manage that risk, guys. Of course, every month, we like to recognize a cattle auction that is doing a good job for their customers. Brick and mortar cattle auction, we're all about that here on the Feeder Flash and at DVAuction. And every month we go in and pick out one that is just gone above and beyond doing business for their customers. They're helping people out. They're marketing cattle. They're selling cattle, high relatively within their area. And this month, your YTEX, it is sponsored by YTEX Tags. Your YTEX Market of the Month this month is Bluegrass Stockyard South in Stanford, Kentucky. Now, I mention them all the time. They sell loads and loads and loads of yearlings every week in Stanford, Kentucky. And if you look at the price on them, you figure that those yearlings, they've got to be coming back into the 5 area to feed. Some of them may be going up into the eastern corn belt, but you still got to put a lot of wheels under those yearlings. But they're locally purchased and backgrounded cattle for the most part there, and that's the best way to do it because they have less problems with those cattle, and then they make yearlings out of them. Most of them are coming off the bluegrass. They're green grass yearlings, and selling those cattle within pennies of what they're bringing in Nebraska or in Kansas, I mean in the shadow of a feed mill from a feedlot. But tell you what, the guys at Bluegrass Stockyards do such a great job, but especially Bluegrass Stockyards South in Stanford, Kentucky, and congratulations to them for being the YTEX Market of the Month. Let's talk about your board on Thursday. October live cattle futures down 42 cents at 186.62. December was down 42 cents at 186.17, but then all of your back months were higher, from 22 cents to 50 cents higher. So that makes us feel kind of decent about things and not too upset about your spot market and your closer ups being down a little bit. They've got to align themselves with the cash market, but they're suddenly going to find themselves either at or just under your weighted averages if we continue to trade fat cattle the way we did on Thursday the rest of this week. October feeder cattle, they were up 62 cents at 246.72, trying to run down your index levels here as we're late into the spot month. So they've got to come together, and they will come together the last day of trading for your October feeder cattle. November was up a little bit too, up 25 cents at 245.75. But then your back months were down some from 22 to 60 cents lower there. Your grains, corn for December was up 2 cents a bushel at 406 3/4. November beans up 8 3/4 at 988 3/4. And your hard red winter wheat for December up 7 1/4 cents a bushel at 596. Your fat cattle trade that I talked to you a little bit about earlier, we saw fairly active trade, or starting to be active, and this is up through 2 o'clock on Thursday. Iowa had sold 7,600 head, 9,500 head for the week. Live prices in Iowa on Thursday ranged from 187 to 188, and that's on the steady to strong side. And your dress sales from 296 to 304. We hadn't seen them get into the $3, up to $3 the last few weeks here on an outlier, but all the way up to 304 on some fancy fat cattle in Iowa. How about Nebraska? 8,300 head, 8,800 for the week. But live prices in Nebraska on Thursday ranged from 187 to 189. We haven't seen 189 for quite some time, and that would be a buck higher even on the top end. Some dress sales in Nebraska at 296, which would be steady with last week. Kansas sold 4,400 head on Thursday, just 100 more than that earlier than the week. And your live prices in Kansas from 187 to 188, and that 188 would be $2 higher on the top end there, guys. Texas sold 2,200 head. That's all they've sold all week, and live prices there from 186 to mostly 188. So good to see your fat cattle arena gain ground for the 6th week in a row. Box beef cutout values gained ground again. This time it was selects that gained ground. It's been the choice that's been higher so much this week, but choice cuts up just 13 cents at 319.26. Selects up $1.15 at 293.52. Your slaughter kind of calmed down on Thursday. It wasn't quite as heavy as what we've seen earlier in the week, but up through the first 4 days of this week, 488,000 estimated slaughter. That's 14,000 more than this point last week, 14,000 less than this point the same week a year ago. Talk about what else is going on. Fair Piece, we talk about them all the time. It's that revolutionary product that is scientifically proven, and they've been a big advertiser with us, and we want people to try it because we've seen how it works. and it should be used anytime that cattle are exposed to management stressors. Stress shifts cattle's metabolism into survival mode, which decreases weight gain, feed conversion, and it worsens their health conditions. Fair-Peace reduces the threat perception, which helps all of those things. You got to try it, guys, especially when you're trying to wean these calves. It's dusty, it's hot, it's cold at night, cattle are under a lot of stress. Just try the Fair-Peace. It's no more than $3 a dose, guys, and it works. For more information, go to fairpeace.com. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DVAuction, based on an 800-pound cash auction steer up through your middle 12 states. Late on Thursday, sitting at 250.56. That was up 34 cents compared to the end of Wednesday's trade there. Your latest CME cash feeder cattle index is very near that at 250.25. Talk about some big sales that are going to be happening here on Friday. St. Onge Livestock in St. Onge, South Dakota. Justin Tupper there, he's got 8,000 on Friday here. Going to be mostly calves, but he's going to sell strings of yearlings there for an hour and a half at the beginning of that sale, and then get on to the fancy calves, and he'll have the best that walk, guys. And then he's going to have a bred cow sale on Saturday. Both of those you can view and bid on DVAuction.com. I'm actually coming to you from Fallon, Nevada. Nevada Livestock Marketing is having their monthly feeder cattle special here on Friday and probably run into Saturday. But we're going to have either side of 5,000 head at least, and it'll be those high altitude desert cattle, guys. And they straighten up and they perform better than about anything else you can find. Those cattle are hard now, hard as rocks. You can view and bid that sale on DVAuction.com. Just like most of your others, we will have somebody there actually taking the bids and turning them in, so it won't be, oh, it's going to be Dusty Markham doing that. And so it won't just be flashing to the auctioneer. They will get seen, and you can talk to the operator there and get a sheet and see how you're getting along, putting your loads together and that kind of thing. But Nevada Livestock Marketing, talked to Jack Payne on Thursday afternoon, and he was very frustrated. He had had to run 2,000 of the heifers through the chute and give them calf food vaccinations, which he always has to do. And talking about this mandatory EID, we know after they get the intact breeding stock here on November the 5th, the next thing they want to do is put it on all classes, just like the APHIS plan says to do from birth to slaughter. He said, I don't know what I would have had to done if I would have had to put another 3,000 through the chute. He had 2 broken backs and a broken leg on those heifers, trying to get them all run through the chute there in 2 days at Nevada Livestock Marketing. Let's talk about your big sales on Thursday. Farmers and Ranchers Livestock in Salina, Kansas, 2,500 head for their sale. Kansas market reporting ain't the best, but they called feeder steers from $1 to $6 lower and the heifers uneven. But pretty decent sale there at Farmers and Ranchers in Salina, Kansas. Your NationalBeefWire stick-out sale of the day was Stockman's Livestock Exchange in Dickinson, North Dakota. They had 2,500 head there, and some very impressive quotes on some of these light calves way up in North Dakota, guys. You got to think about where these things are at. Look at this automated marker report through Cattle Market Central, and you look at your best tested weights. 481 head of 4-weight steers averaged 456 with a weighted average price on nearly 500 of them of $351.18. My goodness. How about 617 head of 5-weight steer calves? They averaged 544 with a weighted average price of $310.94, and 392 head of the 6-weight steer calves averaged 637 at $289.29. Look at some heifers that were well tested. 325 head of the 4-weight heifer calves averaged 448 at $301.14, and 324 head of 5-weight heifer calves averaged 548 pounds in Dickinson, North Dakota, with a weighted average price of $270.94. Give you some other individual quotes from all around How about Burlington Livestock Exchange in Burlington, Colorado? 91 steer calves weighed 505 and bring 334.75. Impressive quote there. They're expecting some moisture, which will help the wheat out there in eastern Colorado and then all through Kansas, down into Oklahoma, and even the Texas Panhandle. I saw on some of the nationwide forecast maps, they said threats of flooding. Hey, we'll take it. Bring all that flooding you can. We haven't had a drop of rain there since the middle of the summer. That wheat needs it bad. Let her come. How about Pratt Livestock? Winter Livestock in Pratt, Kansas sells 53 steers, weighed 921 at 253.5. How about Sisseton Livestock Auction in Sisseton, South Dakota? 126 Pee-wee steer calves weighed 462 and bring 356. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Thursday in your Macrocin, no BS, top quote for the day, come out of New Cambria Livestock Auction in New Cambria, Missouri. That's north central Missouri there, and they are a fairly new DVAuction broadcaster there. They had some fancy Charolais cross steers in there, 70 of them. They were backgrounded and long time weaned, weighed 679 and bring 289.25. And that's your feeder flash for Friday.